So you have to pass the test in order to tell the testimony.
Do you feel like you passed the test?
I feel like me being here sitting in this chair telling this story right now is the proof that I passed the test.
So what's the story?
Every time I see you, you make my heart say,
So you are...
Well, first and foremost, my name is Anise. Sorry. My name is Anise. You can call me Key, you can call me KB, you can call me Kiera. Just don't call me. Okay. I'm ready. No, seriously.
So you're wanting to share your testimony and you're wanting to release what from up until this point is your understanding of the testimony?
Up until this point, well, I understand that when God has people, his people, he uses testimonies to get other people. Like, my testimony is to bless the next person. So that is why we are given testimonies, so that the next person can feel you. You don't believe in, you don't receive until someone else in real life experiences or go through something that is relatable or something of that nature. So when it comes from another entity like myself, for the next person, it's more believable, it's more receivable for them, you know, because this technically, like, you know, I've asked my whole life, like, well, not my whole life, but the last 10 years of my life, like, why me? Like, why me? Because I ain't even got all that going on. Like, I've never been into nothing like this. So, I mean, it wasn't for me, though. It was because I could handle it, though. So it wasn't for me, it's for whoever receives it when I do release it. So you have to pass the test in order to tell the testimony.
Do you feel like you passed the test?
I feel like me being here sitting in this chair telling this story right now is the proof that I passed the test.
So what's the story?
It's not a long story, but for the fact that it is a lot, I'm just going to tell you, at the end of the day, in the beginning, I met a guy. In the end, he ended up locking us in a room and shooting himself in the head. So this is the story about life after death. Yeah. I'll start with telling you that this guy, we're going to call him Loverboy because that's what I call him. I call him Loverboy. I did not meet him until about 2013 during a homecoming event, actually. And during this homecoming event, he was just recruiting because he was going to the Marines, if I'm not mistaken. So he was recruiting, and my dad was a Marine. So I was like oh my gosh, Marine, I want to be a Marine. Granted, nevertheless, my dad told me I couldn't be a Marine because my attitude sucks. But that is originally and initially how we met, and why I was so like gung-ho with, you know, being a Marine and being introduced to a person who was going to the Marines. It was like, oh, we could both do this. Okay, cool. So we exchanged contact information, and then after that, we didn't really communicate until maybe the following year, maybe around January, February. We start building our friendship at that time, and then around like February 14th, we went out for dinner. Of course, that's Valentine's Day, but I've never been a big fan of Valentine's Day, so I'm just saying that we spent time on February 14th. From February 14th, moving on into March, we ended up getting a little closer. March into April, we got even more closer. April into May, we ended up getting into a relationship. So from May 7th, which is the day he actually was like, hey, you want to be my girlfriend? I was like, because he asked me before that. He asked me to be his girlfriend before May 7th, but I was like, no, because I was actually coming out of a 4-year relationship. I was in a relationship with a girl for 4 years. So I was more so like trying to heal or just be to myself for a period of time before I, you know, indulge in something else. But for the friendship that we were building, it was very refreshing, especially coming from a 4-year relationship with a girl. And it was my first 4-year relationship with a girl, my first relationship with a girl, period. So to come out of that and go into this thing with a guy who made me feel special and, you know, just cared for me, it was very refreshing, and I enjoyed it. So May 7th, he asked me to be his girlfriend. I'm not in my head. I didn't even say yes or no. I was just like, so after May 7th, I was back in Atlanta at this time, but I was flying back and forth from Savannah to Atlanta so that we could spend time together. I would probably fly in on like a Friday, and then I would like leave on like Sunday. Sometimes if I wanted to stay, I would stay an extra day or something like that. But that was the gist of the summer from May until August. And school started back in August. And then when school started back in August, I ended up living in his mother's house, which he still lived there at that time. But they didn't have any housing on campus. So from my understanding, they were trying to get housing on campus or release houses and dorms and whatnot. So in that moment, I was staying with his family, his mom, his brothers, everybody that stayed in that apartment at the time. So that was August. His birthday was in September. He was turning 19 at this time. Granted, he lied to me about his age, but that's another story for another day. Stay tuned. You know, we getting litty over here. So, you know, come back. I might have another story for you. But nevertheless, he was 18 turning 19. So I threw him a surprise party. I bought him clothes, shoes, alcohol, okay? Bought him a lot of little stuff so he could enjoy his birthday. And then October came. September also, he had moved out of his mom's house. He moved into his own apartment, which I said he moved because I did not move with him because I wasn't trying to shack. I was more so trying to just wait for availability of my own space. So in September, he moved into his own space. October, he got a new car. And then November, it was like all hell broke loose. When I say all hell broke loose, I mean like broke. Like it broke and then it dropped and then it continued to roll and spiral downwards. So come September, when he did get his spot, and then October when he did get his car, November, he was a little fresh. Like he was, I guess, maybe smelling himself, if you will. That's what they say these days, is smelling themselves, feeling yourself. And there was one day we were laying in the room, we was watching a movie, and I was laying on his chest, and he was like texting someone. So, you know, if I'm laying on your chest, I'm like, so I was peeking. Yes, I was. I was peeking, and I was like, oh, where we going? Because in the message, he was like, oh, I'm about to be on my way. So I'm like, well, where we going? And what I need to put on, like what I need to look like. And that turned into I guess not necessarily an argument, because we didn't argue. Like he was like very not romantic with me, so he made me very comfortable with having a disagreement. So when it came down to that disagreement, I basically felt some type of way simply because, like, you know, I just told you I was in a 4-year relationship and it was refreshing. So, you know, if you wanted to be on the type of time you were on, then just be on that type of time. I'm not forcing you to be here or anything like that. You came to me with the relationship talk. So if you don't want to be in a relationship or you don't want to act like you're in a relationship, then just don't. Like, it's as simple as that. So after that, we were going to Savannah State. I was going to Savannah State at the time. There was a basketball game, and I asked his mother if she would bring me to the school for the game. And up to this point, you will have to listen because some things might spin the block a little bit or reveal itself a little bit or whatever have you, but definitely listen up. So we went to the school for a basketball game, and I asked his mom to take me, like I said, and when I got in the car with her, Loverboy had called. And so when he called, I wasn't going to answer. But his mom was like, please answer, please answer. So I'm like, okay. So I answered the phone. I put it on speakerphone. We have a little conversation. He asks me what I'm doing, where I'm going. And I'm like, oh, I'm headed to the school for the game and whatnot. And he's like, oh, can we talk? And once again, his mom's like, just talk to him. So I'm like, all right. So when I get to the school, she immediately drops me off to him, like straight to his car. Like, don't pass go, do not collect $200, go straight to this man's car. So I go to his car, I get in the passenger seat, I sit down, and when I get into the passenger seat and sit down, We have a maybe 10-minute conversation as far as, I apologize, I'm not going to do this, I can do better, I will be better, I will do better. It'll just be a better situation moving forward. And so I'm feeling it. I'm like, okay, well, maybe it'll change. Maybe we can switch up. Maybe I can calm down my attitude, because like I said, I didn't ask for this. You asked me to be your girlfriend. And if you didn't want that in this moment, then you don't have to have it, you know? So in this moment, while we were in the car having this conversation, I saw him with my own eyes. I see him take his gun out of his waistband and put it in the armrest. He takes his gun out of his waistband and puts it in the armrest. Closes the armrest. Okay, cool. We continue with the night. We separate from this point, and he goes to the game as well as myself. I go to the game. We don't go to the game together, but I know he's at the game because we ran into each other at the game and we have a conversation. And this is probably maybe 20 minutes after our car conversation. So when we're in the gym at Savannah State for the game, and I run into him, I'm like, are you okay? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, have you been drinking? And he's like, yeah, because he was just a little like throwed. So I was like, okay, okay. Now, mind you, he had been on probation, from my understanding, for underage drinking. Like I told you, he was 18 turning 19, and he did out by his age. Cool. So when we left out the gym, he went his way, I went my way. But I did call his mom and say, hey, I just wanted you to know I ran into Loverboy at the gym. He said he had been drinking. I'm not sure, but he seemed a little off. So I just want you to know. Now, mind you, at this point, I was literally kind of like minding my own business, doing my own thing. But I care. So I wanted her to know because I care. So yeah, I let her know, and she was like, well, no, just both of you guys come home. Like, just get him and you both just come home. And I was like, okay. Mind you, he did not live there. I lived there, but he had his own apartment, and he came from his own apartment. He didn't come from her house. So she was like, just both of you guys come home. So I was like, okay, cool. So like I told you, we separated, and I didn't know where he was because he wasn't answering his phone. So I went to the student union on the campus of Savannah State. If you're familiar with college, they have student unions where you eat and fellowship and, you know, whatever have you. So I go to the student union, and when I walk in, there's like literally almost like a crowd of females. There's like a crowd of females. It's not like a huge crowd, but it's enough. And in the middle of this crowd is Loverboy and his best friend. And they actually have like matching names. So it's really kind of cute. But at the same time, it's like, hello, why are you in the middle though? Like, what's happening here? So me, instantly, I get a little attitude because we just sat in the car for 10 minutes and had this conversation. And now I walk in the student union, and you're in the middle, smack dab middle of this, whatever it is. So I kind of like push my way through the crowd, like, excuse me, excuse me, excuse me, excuse me, excuse me. And I'm like, give me your keys. I don't say anything else. I just kind of say, give me your keys. Because at this point, he's busy. So I'm not going to be like, come on, let's go. I'm not that person. But I do want to take the keys. So when you are ready, you have to find me so that you can't drive your own car, because I'll have the keys. So I was just taking the keys and going about my business. Like I said, I was already minding my business. At this point, I was going to leave, but he was busy. So I'm not a demanding person. I'm not like, oh, come on, let's go. You know, especially if you're grown. So I was just going to wait. But I was going to take the keys. So like I said, when he was ready to go, he would have to find me. So that's what I did. I took the keys. But whether it was a guilty conscience, whether you just wanted to come after me, he kind of follows me out, and he's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, we'll talk later. And he keeps repeating himself. I'm like, we'll talk later. And so me, I'm the type of person that I would rather talk later. Like if I'm upset, feeling some type of way, I would rather talk later so I can digest my emotions versus speaking out of emotion. So I said I wanted to talk later. He wasn't going for it. So I eventually ended up hollering like, we'll talk later. Okay. So at that point, the mood was shot. So we ended up leaving in that moment. So he ends up getting in the passenger seat, and I end up driving. So we're driving home to his mom's apartment where I live, and while we're driving home on 57th Street, if you're familiar with Savannah, we was taking a straight shot to 57th Street to Montgomery Street. And I guess we were arguing, but like I said, he wasn't very like problematic, not towards me. So our argument wasn't like a intense, heated argument. We weren't like cursing each other out and screaming in each other's face, but it was just not a good vibe. So in the midst of us arguing and whatnot, I was coming up on a stop sign, and I wasn't at the stop sign, but I was coming up on the stop sign. So I was pressing the brake, like very barely, but pressing the brake enough to be able to move the gears, shift the gears. So as I'm coming up on this stop sign, he throws the gear in park, like he throws the gear in park. So our whole bodies, we do the whole jerk thing, and I'm just like, what is this? Like, I'm like, oh no. Mm-mm. So in that moment, I ended up taking the key out the ignition and giving him his key. I said, here you go. Because no, I'm not doing this. So I take the key out the ignition, I give him his key, and then I call his mom, and I'm like, you need to come get him. Come get your son. I don't know what's wrong with him. You need to come get him. And she comes, she brings her younger son, which is his younger brother, right up under him. She brings his younger son. We're going to call him a twin because I still rock out with him to this day. So she brings twin, and me and twin get in twin's car, and twin drives us home, and he's like, what's wrong? I'm like, I don't know, twin. Like, I really don't know what's the problem. Like, I don't know. It was nothing that deep. It was nothing that serious. And mind you, before they came to get us, like I said, I got out the car, and so I was kind of walking 57th Street, and he kept on trying to, like, not necessarily hug me, but just get me to talk to him, I guess. I don't really know. But when I don't want to talk, I don't talk. Like, when I don't want to be bothered, I don't want to be bothered. Like, don't touch me, get off me. Like, let me be in my own space. But it was a kind of aggressive, but not like abusive aggressive. It was just aggressive to the point where if people are looking out their window, they probably would call the police, which we heard sirens. So we don't know if it was the police or not, because we had to get up out of there. So in the midst of us being outside, I called my mom because he had not met my parents yet. And for people, first impression goes a long way. And he wanted to have a good first impression. So I ended up calling my mom. I didn't tell her anything except like, hey girl, just calling you, checking on you. And she was like, you good? And I was like, yeah. She's like, you sure? I was like, yeah. She said, okay. And that was that. So yeah, then his mom came and twin came. Twin drove his car with me in it, and then his mom drove Loverboy's car with him in it. So we ended up going to her apartment. So when we got to the apartment, she walks in, she goes straight to the back, which is where her room was. And I walk in getting ready to take my shower, and he walks in right behind me, like Loverboy. And he's like trying to talk to me. And again, I'm like, mommy, tell your son I don't want to talk to him right now. And she says, she don't want to talk right now. She says his name, but she says, so-and-so, she doesn't want to talk right now. And he instantly like turns around, gets an attitude, and walks out the front door. So she goes after him. Now, mind you, the last time I saw this gun was when he took it out his waistband on the campus and put it in the armrest. So when he first walks in the house, and I say, mommy, tell your son I don't want to talk. She says exactly that, like, so-and-so, she doesn't want to talk to you. So he turns around, goes out the door. When he goes out the door, she goes after him, and they sit in front of the window that is in front of his old room that I now reside in, and they have a conversation. I only know this because the window is cracked, so I can hear the words, like hear the sound, but I can't hear exactly what they're talking about. So maybe that lasted maybe like 5 to 7 minutes, if that. I'm not even sure. Because like I said, I was about to go take a shower, and I had went to the back, which is where his mom's room was, which is where I took my showers. And his mom had came in by this time. And naturally when you come in the house, you lock the door behind you. So I don't believe that she was locking him out, but I do believe that she came in and she naturally locked the door behind her. So on my way out of her room, she's back in her room, on my way out of her room to go to the room I reside in to grab something or whatever I was doing, because like I said, I was headed to take a shower. You hear a bang, you hear a and his brothers are there, his mom's there. We're all like, who is banging on the door like that? But we don't realize that the door is locked. So now we know that it's Loverboy. So we're like, okay, open the door. So immediately, as Twin, I don't even know who opens the door. I believe it was Twin, but it could have been another brother. But immediately once they open the door, he's like on go. Like he's on go, headed to the room. So I'm coming down the hallway this way and he's coming in the door this way. So we're like almost meeting in the middle, like this. But the room's here. So we're now going to the room. He's coming in the house. I'm coming out his mom's room. I'm going into the room. He's coming into the room right behind me. So he comes into the room right behind me. Literally, I'm talking about as soon as I walk in, he walks in right behind me. He closes the door. He locks it. And I was like, why'd you lock the door? And he was like, so you're not going to talk to me? And I was like, Loverboy, unlock the door. And he was like, so you're not going to talk to me? I said, unlock the door. I kept repeating myself. He kept repeating himself. Then he's like, look out the window. And I was like, what am I looking out the window for? And then he grits his teeth like, look out the window. Like, you know how people grit their teeth when they're trying to be serious. That's how he grit his teeth. And he was like, look out the window. So me, I don't even repeat myself this time. I just go to the window and I look out the window. So as I'm looking out the window, I look left, I look right. I don't see anything. So I end up about to turn back around and then I hear a loud, like, and when I hear that, it makes me turn around faster because I don't know what that sound was, but it was loud. So I'm turning around, and when I turn around, and I turned around so fast that I could see everything. And when I turn around, it's like the first thing I see is like blood shoot out on the right. And that instantly makes me scream. So I see blood shoot out to the right, and it's like a movie because now I see him falling forward, like he's falling, and I'm like confused. And then I see blood, like just a lot of it, like water, and I'm just like screaming. I'm like screaming, like I'm by the window, so there's a window pane, so I'm like crouched down under the window pane, just screaming as loud as I could scream, because is this real right now? Like, what is life? What's happening? Like, what? So I'm screaming, like I said, I'm screaming. And I'm waiting for someone to come save the day. But like I told you, the door was locked. So they're banging now. His family, of course, on the other end of the door is banging on the door. And I'm like, dang, because now I gotta go to the door. Because mind you, when I'm scary. I ain't never been in those situations like this. So I don't go to his aid. I don't go to his side. I don't grab him. I don't cradle him. I don't hold him. I literally crouch under the window pane because I'm so scared of whatever's unraveling and unfolding. And that was that. I didn't go over there. I just stood where I was under the window pane. So when I hear the banging, I have to get up because they can't get in because the door's locked. So I kind of like tiptoe around anything close. I get as far as I can, tiptoe around, and I open the door, and then I point and I go out, and then all hell just breaks loose. Like, everyone's screaming, everyone's crying. I'm still in shock. Like, I haven't even dropped a tear yet because I'm still trying to see if this is real. Like, I'm outside of the apartment sitting on the steps looking straight forward. Like, I'm hearing everything. I'm hearing his mom cry. I'm hearing his brothers cry. I'm hearing everybody scream. The neighbors upstairs, the neighbors downstairs, everyone's coming out of their apartments. It's literally like crazy. So then at this point, I'm pretty sure someone else called 911. I'm pretty sure there was a lot of 911 calls. I just know that I didn't have my phone. I didn't have anything. I took everything off. So I didn't have any shoes on my feet. My phone was on the charger inside the room. I didn't have anything. So immediately when the police got there, there was a detective, and he put me in the police car, or the detective's car. And he told me, he put a tape recorder out and he said, tell me about your day from the beginning to the end. So the exact way I just told you about the game and the conversations and when he put the gun in the waistband and everything is exactly what I told him. They cut the tape recorder off once I finished, and from this point, they allowed me to get my phone, because at this point I hadn't even spoken to my mom again, so she was unaware. When I did get my phone, I called maybe two people, two friends from Savannah State. I called my parents. They roped off the house with caution tape. They roped off the apartment with caution tape. Excuse me. And his family ended up going, I think, to his grandmother's house, and then I ended up going to someone else's house. And so this is the beginning of me not realizing the animosity that it was and it would be, because me knowing that I didn't do anything, they don't know that, but I didn't know that they didn't. Like, I didn't know how people thought or how people felt, or I just know that I didn't do anything. So I had the mindset that, oh, everything's going to be okay with us, because I didn't do anything. I literally told them what happened, and that's what it was. So that night I went to another friend's house, and it was a really rough night. I kind of felt alone because I don't have this family that I live with all the time, wake up to. I don't have any of them with me. And this situation just unfolded the way it did. So I'm just crying and crying, taking a shower and crying some more. I cried all night. Around 5 o'clock in the morning, I think his mom texted me and told me that he had gone brain dead. So at this point, he was definitely being kept on life support. So then the next day, I ended up going to the hospital, and I had one of my very best friends take me. And in this car ride, the song Latch came on. So to this day, it's really one of my favorite songs, because I don't know, it just explains how I felt, or how I feel, or how I felt about him, or whatever the case may be. And it put comfort in me, but it still was a sad moment because I'm on the way to the hospital, not knowing what I'm about to walk into. So when I get to the hospital, I go to his room, and everyone's in his room, and he has like a cup over his eye, because it's like, I guess the bullet shattered his, I don't really know, but it was a cup over his eye. He was like a tube in his mouth. He would leak blood, and they would clean it up. And I was just sitting on his bed, like playing with his hand like this to see if he would like react or something, very much so something. So we were all in there, everybody was crying, praying, just, in there all together. We left out for a few minutes, and then maybe a few minutes later, his mom came back like, it's time. And I'm like, time for what? And that at that time, it was time to pull the plug. So they pulled the plug, and little boy passed away. In that moment he died, you can hear it flatline, and I wanted to scream and I wanted to cry. And I screamed and I cried. And it was literally the worst scream cry combination I could ever have come out of my mouth. Like, it was so painful. Like, it was literally a pain that I never knew I could feel in real life. Like, people be like, my heart hurts. No, my heart literally hurt. Like, it was like somebody was squeezing it. Like, you know how you have butterflies for something good? It was like my heart couldn't feel right. It was, I don't know. It was just not a good feeling. But after that day, today is November 18th, 2024. And this situation happened November 7th, 2014. And today, November 18th, 10 years ago, is the day that we actually buried him. So yes, 10 years ago today is the day that we buried Loverboy. And moving forward after his funeral, it was just, life just spiraled. It just spiraled downwards and out of control, and it was just all bad. And I was in school studying criminal justice. I want to be a lawyer. I will be a lawyer. I studied criminal justice to be a lawyer and ultimately become a judge and own my own law firm. And that's what I've always gone to school for. I've never deterred. I've never changed my major. I've always studied criminal justice, always wanted to be a lawyer. And after all of this happened and unfolded, it was just so many people, because Loverboy was from Savannah and I was not. So people knew him, but they did not know me. But the people that did know me knew my character and knew what I was or was not capable of, or, you know, and people who knew him, you know, they knew him for who they knew him as and what he would or would not do. So it was just chaotic. Like, oh, you did this, you're never gonna be with nobody because you killed. Like, people tell me stuff like that. People telling me something about attention, and I did this and I did that, and it just you have to have thick skin. And this was my first time in anything like major. Like, I went to school, I didn't skip school, and if I did skip school, it was like for a senior skip day, and I was the type of person to ask my parents, like, hey, is it cool if I skip school? Like, you know, I made A's and B's, I didn't go to ISS, I didn't go to OSS, I didn't get in fights, like, I didn't smoke, I didn't drink, like, I just wasn't in, that wasn't my lifestyle. Like, nobody knew that about me, though. I knew that about me, but nobody knew that about me. I was just in college, Savannah State University, being dragged for what I didn't do. So yeah, I grew tough skin. I grew kind of aggressive throughout this lifetime. I grew kind of numb throughout this lifetime. I ended up getting an incomplete. I didn't finish school because it was just very overwhelming. I tried to go to counseling. I felt like it didn't work because it was a school counselor and she didn't really care. So I got an incomplete, which allows me to not get zeros technically. So moving forward, this was maybe October. So maybe shy of a year, because everything happened in November. So shy of a year, in October of 2015, the same detective that took me in his police car, he actually called me in October, like, hey, I need you to come into the station. And I'm like, okay. So I call my mom and I call my dad and I'm like, hey, the detective's like, I need to come into the station. And they're like, don't go by yourself. And I'm like, well, I feel like it'll be okay. I didn't do anything. You know what I'm saying? I asked Loverboy's mom as well if she would come with me, but ultimately she had something to do. She couldn't come. So I ended up going by myself. Like, my parents told me not to because I'm hard-headed. And when I got there, they like, oh, we just have this question, these questions, and they put me into, and obviously I study criminal justice and I watch all types of Law and Orders and, you know, Criminal Minds and all types of shows. So they put me into an interrogation room. And in this interrogation room, he says, tell me about your day from the beginning to the end. The same thing he told me to tell him the first time we encountered each other is the same thing he told me to tell him almost a year later. So I proceed and I tell him the story. And after I finish, he takes this paper and he flips it over. And this paper is a picture of Loverboy's unalived body on the autopsy table. Like, no life, he didn't warn me or anything. So I instantly am in tears because, what? Like, why would you even, but I get it. I mean, I get it for what your job is, but like, come on, you know? Like, dang, you're innocent till you're proven guilty. So if I'm a victim, I'm a victim. If I'm a suspect, I'm still an innocent suspect. So, you know, you could have some empathy, some compassion, but that's neither here nor there. So he flips it and he basically tells me, there's a gash at the top of Loverboy's head, and it wasn't ruled as a suicide, it was ruled as a homicide, which of course, if it's just himself and myself in this room, and then only one person comes out unharmed, it looks bad. It definitely looks bad, and I understand why anybody would, do their job the way they are doing it. But I'm giving you the facts. I'm giving you the truth. I'm giving you everything. So, and on that day, no, they did not give me a GSR for my hands. So they could have done that then too. So after he flips his picture over and he says what he says, and he didn't have any alcohol in his system. You said he had alcohol in his system. I said no. What I said was, he said he had alcohol in his system. I never said that I saw him drink. I said he said he had alcohol in his system. So if he did not, then I don't know. But I do know that he said he had alcohol in his system. And I had him on speakerphone so his mom can confirm that. So however you want to play it, like, okay. So after this moment, they leave out the room. They leave me in the room, of course. Obviously, they do that thing where they watch you and see what happens. So in this moment, I call my parents. I'm in tears. And I'm crying. I'm in tears. And yeah, just all types of crazy. And they come back in. Well, he comes back in. The detective comes back in. And he's like, you know what? You need to get off the phone. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put a search warrant out on your phone. I'm going to put a search warrant out on you. So you can stay put. And so, like I said, I was crying when I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. Okay, so now I got to dry my little eyes, dry my tears, get right. And I'm like, am I under arrest? Because what they wanted to do was get the search warrants while I sat there for however many hours it took them to get it and then serve me. But like, if you're not under arrest and you're not being detained, you didn't read me no rights, then I'm about to go because y'all got me bent in half. So I'm like, am I under arrest? And he's like, no. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go. And there's another detective that comes in and he is like talking to him like, did her story change? And the detective that initially talked to me is like, and I'm like, yeah, it's not going to change because I literally live with it every day. It's etched in my mind. It won't change. It can't change because it's etched in my mind. I wish it would go away. I wish I didn't have to remember the same thing over and over and over again. Like, so I'm like, I'm going to go. And the same way you guys called me in here and I came in here, you can call me again and I'll come back. So before I leave, the detective's like, don't go too far. I'm like, I'm not, like, you know what I'm saying? And they're like, we'll come to the school and get you. We'll come to your job and get you. We'll come to, like, I don't know if these are threats or what, but I'm only 21. I've never been in no trouble with the law. I've never been arrested. I've never been to jail. I've never nothing. So it's a little intimidating, especially because I'm 21 and I'm studying criminal justice. So I'm a little knowledgeable, but I'm not overly knowledgeable how I would like to be able to handle what I'm going through. So when I leave from the station, I go to where I was residing at Loverboy's mom's house or apartment, and I kind of just explained to her like what happened. And when I told her that they ruled it as a homicide and not a suicide, all hell breaks loose because she knows. That's what she says. She says, I know. And I'm just like, what do you mean, you know? And then she proceeds to say, oh, they said that if I tampered with the evidence, then they could arrest me. And I just want to know what happened to my son. And so I'm just like, and so it just got all bad. Like the mood, the vibes, all changed. It was pure animosity. I wasn't sure what was up. Like, I mean, as the years went on, as of now, I do know that they didn't like me or felt like I was the reason for this or was the reason for that. And I'm not perfect. I'm not ever going to insinuate that I'm perfect. I'm not pointing fingers or anything of that nature, but I am acknowledging the facts and the truth. So take it how you will, do what you want with it. But this is my truth. This is my truth, and this is my testimony on how I went from dark to light because I was in a really, 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 really dark space, and it just repeated itself year after year after year after year. So after I left and I spoke with his mom, and she said she just wanted to know what happened to her son. some time passed by, a couple of weeks, and the detective actually did serve me with a search warrant. He actually did serve me with a search warrant that I had to write off on. And they were searching me for my DNA. They said the phone, but I guess maybe a year later, it was too late, and you have to have probable cause. So they served me with a search warrant for my DNA. So when I got there, I asked a counselor from Savannah State to come with me. He actually did come with me. And when he did come, he was like, I'm so glad you asked me to come. I'm glad you didn't come by yourself. I understand why you asked, because it was just, I have discernment, and it wasn't good. Like, it wasn't ideal. Not that it should be an ideal situation, but it doesn't have to go the way that it did. It was very distasteful and very uncomfortable. So, yeah. But they did serve me with a search warrant for my DNA, which they swabbed my mouth. After that day, I never heard from them again. They didn't call and say, you're clear. They didn't call and say false alarm. They didn't call and say, we apologize. They didn't call and say anything. And for a long time, I was traumatized. Like, I was so nervous, so scared that they would call me and say something, because me knowing that I didn't do anything, the law and the way that it's set up is just, sometimes you have to go through the storm before you come out on top. And I don't know, like, I was nervous because that could have been my life. That could have been my outcome. But like I said, they never called back. From then to this day, I've never heard from them again. But moving forward for myself, I was just so numb. I was so broken as a person, as a human, as a young lady. I was broken. Like, I was vulnerable. I ended up getting into relationships that were kind of like, I don't know, demeaning. I mean, they weren't all bad, but it was some things that you just wouldn't deal with, that you dealt with over and over and over again. I got into one relationship, and I didn't recollect that I told Loverboy that I didn't want to talk to him, but I guess I did speak about it to this new person that I was in a relationship with, and his response when I said I didn't want to talk, because when I don't want to talk, I don't want to talk. Like, I have to grasp my emotions. So his response was like, oh, so I have to kill myself like Loverboy did. And it was just like, huh? Like, what? Like, people are so nasty. Like, people just can be so nasty. So it was just a lot of little things that I've dealt with. I feel like I never could heal right, because I was always trying to not be alone, and I accepted whatever instead of just being by myself and healing by myself. And, you know, any relationship that I was in after Loverboy acknowledged him, and that's because I acknowledged him. And someone told me, you can respect your past, but you have to learn to respect your past and your future. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, you know, you're absolutely right. Like, you're absolutely right, because I tried to do this and that and X, Y, and Z after this death, and nothing worked. Like, nothing ever worked. So moving forward, today in 2024, November 18th, I decided that I was ready to let go. Literally let go and let God. Like, whatever he does, however he moves in my life from this point on is the story that he wrote. It's the path that he wanted for me. It is, because the story's already written. Like, we're aware of that. The story's already written. God knows the story before you do. It's just, you have to surrender to him in order to walk the path of said story. And so it took me 10 years to grasp that concept. Because in Jeremiah 29:11 it says he knows the plans that he has for you, and it's not to leave you weary, but to allow you to be successful and allow you to grow and allow you to be who you are. And I live by that. Like, I feel like when I read that, I'm just being patient and waiting because I know there's something more. But you can't walk into that something more if you don't allow a greater entity to control that something more. If you're trying to control that something more, it won't work. It won't work. You have to let go and let God, because it's his plan. And he said that the weapons would form, but they wouldn't prosper. So you just have to trust in him. And this is why he gave me this. This is why he gave me this situation. This is why he gave me this testimony, because I'm a big dog. He know I can handle it. Like, I didn't go to therapy. I didn't go to counseling. And granted, I'm not saying that you have to or you don't have to. It probably could have assisted me in my healing a little better or a little quicker, but I didn't go to therapy. I didn't go to counseling. I kind of just winged it. I just tried to go through life however I had to. And it took me 10 years to realize that you can't go through life however you have to. You have to trust God. You have to believe God, put it in God's hands. You have to let go and let God. So here I am in 2024. I got back in school. I go to Georgia State University. I just applied for my last 3 classes for spring semester. I will be graduating in May. Still studying criminal justice. Still wanting to be a lawyer. Still going to be a lawyer turned judge and own my own law firm. I don't have any relationships that are hindering me at this moment. If anything, they're teaching me and helping me grow, because I'm putting my faith where it belongs, and that's in God and not man. So that's probably the biggest lesson that I did learn throughout all of this, is to put your trust, to put your faith in God and not man, because God wants you to love him the way that you love man. He deserves all that love. And so instead of you being broken and searching for someone to love you, love God and allow him to love you back, and just see where it gets you. And that's what I had to learn, because when I tell you nothing was working, nothing was working. It didn't matter if I went left. It didn't matter if I went right. It didn't matter if I went up. It didn't matter if I went down. Nothing was working. So I had to surrender unto him. I had to surrender unto God, and this is where it got me. I woke up feeling like I should tell the world about my situation, my testimony, the thing that has been hindering me for the past 10 years of my life, the thing that's been replaying over and over in my head for the past 10 years of my life, the thing that's probably kept me back from being as great as I could be at this point. But you know, when you are walking into your victory, you feel it. And I feel victorious. I feel accomplished. And before all of the accomplishments, I feel like something snapped, and I'm alive, and I'm free, and I'm well, and I no longer am holding myself back, and I'm no longer allowing anything or anyone to hold me back. I'm going to live for God, live for me, live through God, and just be a godly person. Just be a goddess. Like, that's why I wear white, like pure white, because it's new beginnings. I'm a new person. This is a new life for me. Like, something I've never experienced, and I'm so excited for it, because one thing God never did was leave nor forsake me. As many times as I was angry with him, as many times as I denounced him or disowned him for, not making it make sense. But it wasn't him that wasn't making it make sense. It was me and how I was moving and my actions and how I was thinking. And you can't cheat God. That's one thing that I can definitely vouch. You cannot cheat God. So you have to do the work for real. You have to let go and let God for real. You can't just say it and not do it. You have to literally let go and literally let God. Literally. So yeah, I just wanted to tell my testimony, because like my mother told me, you didn't go through this for you. You went through this for somebody else. He just used you because you're strong. You're a warrior and you're capable. And I am capable, because like I said, I didn't do counseling. I didn't do therapy. I just went through and got through to the other side. still here, still alive, still well, still very, very, very pretty. So yeah, like, I'm here today to tell you that if you're ever thinking of, leaving this life, leaving this world, leaving this earth, and you care about someone or you love someone, if you have a mom you love, a dad you love, siblings, aunts, uncles you love, girlfriends, ex-girlfriends, significant others, anybody that you love, I want you to first think about them, because this is called life after death, because there was a death that occurred, and then this is my life. And I continuously chose death for 10 years. I continuously chose death because nothing was growing for me, because I clung to death. But now today, this is life after death, and I choose life. I choose life. I choose to move forward. I choose to move on. I choose to close that chapter and open the next chapter. So if you're out there and you're feeling like you want to omit yourself from this world, from this earth, and you love someone, think of them. Don't just think of yourself, think of them as well, because people may not feel loved, but people love you. And when you take yourself out of the equation, you'll end up like me, 10 years, thinking of the same thing every day, crying about the same thing almost every day. Like, it's just not fun. It's not fun. It's not healthy. It's not a good situation for the people that you leave here. So moving forward, if you are dealing with a situation as such, you're so strong, you're so capable, you're doing it and going through it for a reason. Like, it's not in vain. It's not a coincidence. I'm not in this situation just coincidentally. Like, everything happens for a reason. You meet everybody that you meet for a reason. Like I said, God knows of the story before it's written. You have choices. You have choices. You can choose to go down the path that's to your left, or you can choose to go down the path that's to your right. And sometimes we choose the path that's to our right that has twists and turns and bends and corners, when we could have just chose the left path that takes us straight and narrow to our destination. But that is why we have things such as testimonies, because now we've had to go through these tests to be able to tell the end result. I'm still here. I'm alive. I'm well. I'm living. I'm loving. And there's just still more to come. This is a new beginning for me. Like, I've never done this before. This would be my first YouTube video, and it should be more to come. But like I said, I'm feeling victorious. So if this is that moment, then this is just that moment. And I just wanted you all to take this with you and to understand and overstand that you're not alone, and you can always reach out to me or reach out to someone you trust, someone that you confide in. But you never have to do this alone. You never have to do this alone, and you never have to think that you are alone, because there's always someone that is there resonating with you. I learned that the hard way, but I'm definitely glad that I learned it at this point. So yeah, I just wanted to tell my testimony. Wanted to tell you how God blessed me and God brought me through. And it's because of God that I'm still here. I prayed so many nights. I begged him so many nights. I cried so many nights and prayed again so many nights. It wasn't therapy. It wasn't counseling. It wasn't a boyfriend. It wasn't a girlfriend. It wasn't anything. Of course, I believe he gave me my son because I needed something to live for. Now, granted, I was never suicidal. Never wanted to not live. But my son just made me want to go even harder, live even longer, to see him live. So just be mindful. Be mindful, man. Be mindful. If I had to, once again, break down a testimony and what it means to me, it is the trials and tribulations that God brought you through. That's the test. The testimony is releasing those tests and letting the next person know that there's life after death. Like, it comes full circle. There is a silver lining at the end of all of this. And I'm grateful that you guys tuned in. I'm on a journey. Like I said, it's a new life. This is a new beginning for me. And how this new beginning unfolds, I'm so excited to see. So, stay for a while if you will. If you don't want to, that's cool too. But stay for a while. We can get through this journey together. We can go experience these new beginnings together. Once again, I'm Kira, KB, Key, call me whatever you like. Just don't call me. I'm signing out, y'all. Bye.
Raise the sun.